Hello and welcome to this short flow practice. We're going to flow for around about 30 minutes. Not a huge warm-up, so if you are feeling a little cold, a little tight, a little like you need to move slowly first, then you might prefer to pause and move slowly, or just take things with a little bit more ease. Otherwise, if you feel ready to go, you can get started at the top of the mat. So come to the top of your mat and settle in. Bring some attention and awareness to the feet. And you might reposition the feet a few times. You might move a little bit, a little wriggle, a little jiggle, a little twist. Notice the breath. And notice your balance. Notice the balance between the feet. Notice the balance points on the feet. And try and find a sense of evenness. You might ease from side to side and then settle in a semblance of center. And then imagine there's something between the thighs that you're just getting a gentle grip on. So there's a sense of drawing the legs in towards each other. And then reverse that. Imagine you're pulling the legs away from each other as if there's a strap wrapped around the thighs that you're trying to pull apart and create tension on. And look to try and generate that same action of pulling apart and squeezing together at the same time as you bring a little soft bend into the knees and start to send the hips back. Keep space in the low back. Maybe you fold forward a little to do that. And then arms might reach forward, they might reach up, and we'll find this Utkatasana chair pose. And you might stay static in your chair. Otherwise, we'll move a little bit by rocking up onto the toes and back down onto the heels. And feel free to move the arms. I like swinging my hands back as I come up onto the toes for a little more balance. And then bringing the hands back to heart center as I drop the heels down. So we'll do that 3 or 4 more times. Maybe that starts to be in time with the rhythm of your breath. And then come to more of a fold. So bend the knees, bring the forearms to the thighs. And the same thing, rocking up onto the toes, sinking back onto the heels. Might tuck the chin in, really play with the balance here. And as you sink back onto the heels, you might pick up all 10 toes. And once more like that. And next time you come back to the heels, send the hands back behind you, almost like you're a downhill skier, and straighten into the legs. And then sink into the bend of the knees, reach the arms forward, more like a low Utkatasana. And then swing the hands back, straighten into the legs, tuck the chin in, lengthen through the back of the neck. And then again, sink down, reach. Swing the hands back. Slowly working towards more of a forward fold. And then a low chair. A forward fold. And then a low chair. Looking for tension through back of the legs as you fold. Nice. One more in the fold, and then come to a flat back halfway lift. And bend the knees, plant the hands, step the feet back, high plank. And then knees down, sink back, child's pose. And then rock forward, high plank. So we're coming between child's pose and high plank. And creating a little bit of power and movement through the legs. Taking 2 more. keeping my toes tucked the whole time. And then we'll meet in downward facing dog. Down dog, find some movement through the feet. Maybe a side to side action to release out through the hips, maybe a bend and straighten into the legs. And then inhale and reach the right leg high. And then step the right foot towards the right hand, maybe outside the right hand. And then sink into a lunge position. And then step back to three-legged dog. Do that 3 or 4 more times with the breath. Finding a rhythm, generating a little bit of heat. And maybe you're really working on keeping the breath smooth as you do this. Maybe you're just simply focusing on the movements. Last one, stepping forward, and then we'll add a twist from here. So keep left hand down, reach right arm up. And then bring the right hand back down, tap the floor, reach back up. You might explore a little further back, or a little further behind you. Each time you move, moving in a different way. One more. And step back, downward facing dog. Ripple forward, high plank. Knees down, lower to the mat. Untuck the toes, push into the feet, lift up, active back. Maybe that's baby cobra. Or if you prefer, Shalavasana. Keep the chin tucked either way. And then we'll meet back to downward facing dog. Left leg lifts. And then stepping that left foot forward towards the left hand, maybe outside the left hand. And back to three-legged dog and start to flow between those few places, 2 places I should say. And we'll take 2 or 3 more. And last one, leaving the foot at the top of the mat and adding that twist, left arm up and down. Twisting in a slightly different way each time. Taking the arm on a different trajectory. One, maybe 2 more. And then plant the hand, step it back, downward facing dog, ripple forward, high plank. Lower down, maybe chaturanga, or to the mat once again. You might go to up dog, or another round baby cobra, or Shalavasana, and then downward facing dog. Nice full breath. And take a deep sigh out the mouth, settling breath. And then smooth out your breath once again. Find your way to the top of the mat. You might be simply walking or stepping. If you're working on your hop, feel free to generate a deep bend in the knees, send the hips back, and really work on powering up that pounce. So sink back, hop, maybe hips go up, and then feet plant somewhere near the hands, walk the rest of the way, forward fold, top of the mat. Feet come to hip distance, or anywhere you feel settled and stable for your Utkatasana chair pose. Bend the knees, rise up, find your chair. And we'll find that movement in our chair again. So this time a little different. As you swing the hands back, stay in your chair and come up onto the toes. And then swing the hands forward, sink the heels. You might even reach up. And then again, between those two positions with a sense of rhythm, which might be faster than the rhythm of your breath. And try and keep the breath consistent. Another 2. And this time all the way up
and reach. You might create a little bit of front body tension, a little bit of gentle spine extension. And then soft knees, hips back, forward, fold. Flat back halfway, let's pause. Knees bend, hands plant, step right foot back. And set yourself for crescent lunge. So sink into the bend of both knees, squeeze in the thighs and rise up on your crescent lunge. Hands come through to heart center, draw the hands in towards the chest, draw the chest up towards the hands. Gentle rotation to the left. Notice if the head has gone a whole lot further than the alignment of the shoulders. Try and use the fingertips as a guide so that the thumb stays connected to the sternum, fingertips stay lined up with the chin, and then you might spread the arms. And you might deepen the twist a little, just an option here, into how that low back is feeling. Think about breath coming right into that mid back, into the back area of the lungs. Left hand down, the back leg, right arm reaches to the ceiling. Nice, full breath. And then option, whether you're here or here or here, we're going to try and move between this position, this twist, whatever variation you're in, to a modified revolved crescent lunge. So there's a sense of energy moving forward, weight coming onto that front left foot and weight coming off the back foot. You might keep the toes down and then bringing that right hand down and the left arm either out or up. And then we'll transition between both those two places, back and forth. So finding a sense of flow. Any little wobbles, think about squeezing between inner thighs, really pressing down through the ball of the big toe. 2 more. And then a moment of hold, whatever that looks like for you. So your hold might be left hand to the low back, right hand reaching, right toe still down. You might be more working on that full expression or that traditional variation of revolved half moon. Really making it yours for another breath. And then we'll transition to warrior two. So come back down, back heel, grounds into the mat, spiral open, and land in that warrior two shape. And then draw in and out of the front knee. Settling the breath. And come into some sense of stillness. Your warrior two, nice and grounded. And then the front hand flips. Reach that front arm up, left arm to the ceiling. And the back arm, that right arm down, back leg. Reverse warrior here. Play with the depth of that front knee. Settle the breath. And then control windmill of the arms all the way around and down to frame the front foot. So your option here, simply step back, take it to child's pose or down dog. Or take it through a round of flow. Otherwise, slide the foot to around about halfway back. Bring the hands down in front and then come to balance on this left leg so that the shoulders start to come forward of the wrists. And you might just work here, rocking shoulders forward of wrists. Really activate this right leg, this lifted leg. Think about trying to make that right leg as long and strong and straight as possible. And if it feels great, you might work with little hops. Little hops. See how softly you can land. If you've got a convenient wall, you might use the wall to experiment with more of a handstand. Or if you feel balance to play with it, go for it. We'll meet in downward facing dog, which might mean you take it through a round of flow, chaturanga up dog, down dog. Might mean you take a few moments off the hands in a child's pose. Beautiful, meeting back, downward facing dog. In your transition, find your way to the top of the mat, which might incorporate another hop, or walking or stepping. Folding over the legs when you get there, setting up for your chair pose once again. Sink into the knees, rise up with Katasana. Ground out through the feet, power all the way up to stand, maybe hips forward. And then settle hands at heart center. And reach them up once again. Forward fold. Flat back, halfway lift. This time, right foot stays at the top of the mat. Left foot goes back, set yourself for crescent lunge. Find the length of the stride that feels strong and stable. You've got enough power to hover the hands and then squeeze in the thighs and rise up. Finding that shape. Full breath. And then hands come to heart center. Anchor thumbs to sternum. Lift sternum to thumbs. Nice proud chest. And then your variation of the squat. So finding that squeeze in inner thighs. Keep the lower body nice and stable as you start to rotate through mid-back. And then options, take arms wider, or deepen the twist by reaching right hand back, left arm up. And then set yourself. Think about the grounding in the feet. Think about the power you need to lift up into that revolved half moon transition. And then lead maybe with the top arm if you're in the steep version of the twist, or that front arm if you're in the open version, or if you've got the hands together, think about opening the arms as you transition. So coming to weight on that right foot, float in. Maybe you float the back foot off, maybe you keep it down, and then transition back. So working with your variation, transitioning between those two places. Looking for a sense of smoothness with the movement, smoothness with the breath, and being in the wobbles when they're there, recorrecting. If you fall out, just come on back in. One more here. And then we'll come forward and hold in the shape. You might twist a little more if it feels stable. You might lift the back leg a little more. We might bring the toes down if it's a bit fatiguey. And then we'll transition to warrior two, nice control. Reach back with the back foot, spiral the back heel down, and windmill open as you open the hips. Find that grounding, that stable place through the back leg, the front foot. Anchor the lower body into the shape. Feel the ground. Notice for the lean forward or the lean back, find that sense of stability. Arms reaching. Your warrior two. You might be moving a little. You might find that sweet spot of stillness. And then front palm flips. Back hand down the back leg, reverse warrior. Full breath. And then with control, windmill those arms down, frame the foot. Front foot slides back. Now you might be skipping this part, going straight to down dog or child's pose, or moving through a regular round of flow. Otherwise, hands plant, lean forward, come onto the toes of that right foot, lift the left leg high and active, strong, and play with shoulders forward to wrists. Just feeling the weight of the body come into the hands. Feeling what you need to do to stabilize the weight of the body with the hands. And if it feels stable, maybe a couple little hops. Keeping things super active, you might point through the toes, flex the feet to keep the legs feeling active. And then slow it out, or holding down dog, and take it to child's pose. Two, maybe three more breaths. Beautiful, then down facing dog. Right leg reaches tall. Right knee towards right wrist. Find pigeon, or at least pigeon prep. Find that space that feels spacious, basically. Find that place that feels spacious for the front knee. And it feels active. We're looking for a little bit of outer hip release. So you might move a little side to side and find that spot that maybe is tightened up or fatigued a little bit. A moment of release. And we'll soothe into. Adjust the position of the hands. You might untuck the back toes and push down into the back foot. You might tuck the toes and push out into the back heel, lifting that back knee off the mat. You might support with a block or anything, couch cushion, a folded blanket, a towel underneath that right hip to get a sense of level through the pelvis. And then we'll add a little bit of quadricep front thigh release. So right hand to the center, left arm round and back. You can take a hold of the foot if that's within reach. Otherwise, you could loop your towel or strap or your belt, necktie around the foot to get a sense of push and pull. And see if we can find some activation and release through the front of the leg. If you want the full active variation, pull the heel in as much as you can active. Just reach the hand past it. Working active lengthening into the thigh, the front and back. Maybe that passive assist, the hand pulling in. If you have mermaid binds or full king pigeon from here, feel free, of course. Making sure you feel nice and warm and open, stable and strong. Beautiful, one more breath. And then release from there. Now, option for the transition, you might step back, take it to down dog, step forward. You might lean out to the side, sweep the leg around, and switch change. Otherwise, we're going to play with a little jump transition. So pushing into the front shin, leaning the weight forward, a little rock forward and back, and then switch. And then into pigeon on the other side, re-square, then settle yourself, push down through that back leg, set yourself in that pigeon place. Find the breath. Find that stable place, nice and active, and then we'll add the twist, reaching back and around to the foot, maybe past, maybe that push-pull. Releasing through front of thigh. One, maybe two more breaths. Might work with that active variation. And then find your release. And then step it downward facing dog, maybe around a flow. hop through to a seat. Feel free to just bring the knees down, swing the legs out to the side and make your way to a seat. You've got the hop through, you're working on the hop through. Think about the end of the knees, think about crossing the legs in the air and seeing if you can come all the way over onto the bottom. And then sit yourself. Upavishta Konasana, wide-legged, forward fold. When you're ready, toes draw back towards you. Find length, doesn't have to be your widest. Sit up with the legs. And then today, we'll take an active variation. So you might like to slide the blanket in under the hips. And we're going to start to come forward, pressing down through the legs, which might mean the knees bend a little bit, but go with it. Lengthen through the back. So make sure you've got that kind of forward tilt, that anterior pelvic tilt, the pelvis tipping forward first. That feels stable. You're going to reach the arms. You might interlace the fingers and start to reach forward and ease back. Reach forward and ease back. You might have hands to opposite elbows as you reach forward and back. You might prefer to have the hands on your low back. So each one of those is changing the length of the lever. Maybe you prefer to feel grounded, bringing the hands down to the floor for a little bit of extra support. I like this variation, hands across the chest, sense of tone through the belly. Another 2, maybe 3 breaths. And then find your place to pause, which might be hands down. You might even introduce something like a stack of blocks or whatever you've got to rest the head down if you want to hold for a little longer here. Maybe the hands go out to the legs. And you might like to completely reverse it, lean back and open through the front a little bit more. Two more breaths. And release how you wish to release, little side to side or anything else. And then with control, lower down, nice and easy. And see yourself, feet wide, knees knocking in for a moment, settle the low back. And then up to you if you want a little bit of movement through the spine, lifting and lowering through undulating bridges. If you want something a little bit more back bendy, you might lift up and hold in a bridge, or you can take it into full wheel. If you want something a little bit more restorative, you might slide the bottom to the wall, take the legs up the wall, or slide something underneath the hips and the sacrum, and take it into a waterfall pose, or just simply lift the legs up in this variation. And we're coming up to the half-hour mark now, so if you want to have a slower warm down and ease your way into Shavasana, and feel free to do that. If you're still working with active variations, go for it. Take all the time you need. Otherwise, if you're ready for Shavasana now, make your way there. Any variation might be on your back, on your side, your belly. You might like to sit up. Wherever you're at, if you're taking it to Shavasana, do a little check-in to see if there's any more softness you can achieve through the shoulders, through the face, through the jaw. Allowing the practice to settle and assimilate.
And of course, if you have more time, feel free to spend more time in your Shavasana or wherever you're at. Otherwise, close it off with a shared breath. Maybe those hands come towards the center of the chest, a nice full inhale. Exhale to side out, let it all soften, release, and settle. Thanks so much for practicing with me today. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Namaste.